All right, let's get right into it. For runners, it feels like there's this constant balancing act, right? Training versus recovery. But what if the most important piece of that puzzle is the one we're quickest to throw away?
I mean, we've all seen it. Maybe we've even posted it ourselves. That super early alarm, the empty streets, getting those miles in before anyone else is even awake. It feels like the ultimate sign of discipline. But here's the real question. Is it actually making you a better runner, or is it secretly setting you up for an injury that could take you out for the season?
It's kind of this badge of honor in the running world, isn't it? This idea that to get better, you have to get up earlier. You have to run farther, push harder, even if it means you're only getting 5 or 6 hours of sleep. But, a whole lot of research is starting to suggest that this whole hustle mindset might be completely backward.
So, to really figure this out, we're going to dig into this amazing 2025 study that put this exact idea to the test. It's called Sleep Matters, and trust me, what they found could honestly change the way you think about your training.
And this isn't just a theory, we're talking about real data. Researchers studied a big group, 425 recreational runners in the Netherlands, basically people just like us, to see if there were any clear, predictable links between how they slept and how often they got hurt. So how'd they do it? Well, they had these runners answer questions about 3 key things. Not just how long they slept, but also the quality of that sleep and how often they had sleep problems, like waking up in the middle of the night. Then they compared all that to any injuries the runners had reported over the last year. And here's the really cool part. They used this smart statistical method that's kind of like a sorting hat for sleepers. It let them find these distinct, hidden groups of runners based on the whole pattern of their sleep habits, not just a single number.
And what they discovered is really fascinating. It turns out runners don't just fall into good sleeper or bad sleeper buckets. The data showed there are actually 4 unique sleep profiles. So as we go through these, I want you to ask yourself, which one sounds the most like you?
And this is so important. The study found it's not just about the number of hours you clock. It's about the entire picture of your sleep habits. So, let's meet the 4 groups they found.
Okay, first up, we have the biggest group, making up almost half of all the runners. They call them the steady sleepers. Think of these as your baseline athletes. They're getting a pretty normal amount of sleep, they feel good about the quality, and they're not really struggling with sleep problems. For this study, they're basically our control group.
Next, we've got the poor sleepers, and this is a huge group, 37%. These are the runners who are getting hit from all sides. Not enough hours in bed, low-quality rest, and lots of disruptions. This is that classic sleep-deprived person, and this is where the story gets really juicy.
Then we have a much smaller, but pretty interesting group called the efficient sleepers. Now they aren't sleeping any longer than average, but the sleep they do get is amazing, super high quality, with almost no problems. The researchers even suggested these folks might be like elite sleepers, maybe even genetically wired to get better rest in less time.
And finally, there's the fragmented sleepers. This group is getting enough hours in bed, but their sleep is choppy, it's disrupted. It's the perfect example of how just being in bed for 8 hours doesn't automatically mean you're getting the deep, restorative recovery your body actually needs.
Okay, so we've got our 4 profiles. Now, for the million-dollar question. How does all of this connect to actually getting injured? This is where the data shows us what's really at stake.
So the researchers crunched the numbers, controlling for things like age and how much people were running. They wanted to isolate the one thing that mattered. How did these sleep profiles affect injury rates? So what did they find? This is the number that should stop every runner in their tracks. Runners in that poor sleepers group were 1.78 times more likely to have reported a running injury compared to the steady sleepers. Let me say that again, almost twice as likely. That is a massive, statistically significant increase in your risk of getting hurt.
Let's just put that number into perspective. For the steady sleepers, our baseline, the chances of having an injury over the past year were about 55%. But for the poor sleepers, that probability shot up to 68%. That's a 13-point jump. That's the difference between crushing your training block and being stuck on the couch for weeks.
So the conclusion here is pretty hard to ignore. Believing you can trade sleep for more training is just a myth, and here's why. Physiologically, not getting enough quality sleep is a total disaster for recovery. It makes your stress hormone, cortisol, spike, which can actually break down your muscles. At the same time, it tanks your growth hormone, which you desperately need for repair. Your reaction time gets worse, your coordination suffers, your body just can't heal itself properly. It is the perfect recipe for an injury. But listen, this isn't all bad news. It's a call to action.
Knowing all this is one thing, but what can we actually do about it? Well, the study gives us a pretty clear roadmap.
It really starts with the basics. Experts all agree, adults need 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night. And for athletes, people who are actively breaking down their bodies every day, that need is probably on the higher end of that scale, maybe even a little more, just to fully recover.
But it's about more than just the hours, right? It's about the quality. And that comes down to good old sleep hygiene. First, be consistent. Go to bed and wake up around the same time. Yes, even on weekends. This locks in your body's internal clock. Next, you gotta optimize your bedroom. Turn it into a recovery cave. Cool, dark, and quiet. And finally, you have to nail your wind-down routine. That means no caffeine or alcohol late at night, and swapping that late-night doom scrolling for something calming, like reading an actual book.
And if you want to get even more strategic, there are a few other tools you can pull out. A quick power nap can do wonders for recovery. Also be real with yourself. If you're a night owl, forcing yourself to run at 5 a.m. might be doing more harm than good. But the biggest thing is this. Start thinking of sleep as a part of your training plan. It's just as important as your long run or your track workout.
So we end with this question. We obsess over our watches, our shoes, our nutrition, but what if the one piece of tech that's having the biggest negative impact on our running is the alarm clock we set an hour too early? This research really suggests it's time we rethink that trade-off, because the choice might not actually be between sleeping and running. It might be between sleeping and getting sidelined.